Gave your tears. well, because you really need to refresh my memory as to the Gary Numan career. I always thought in the back of my mind there was a stage where you decided perhaps you'd had enough.
I'd had enough of touring. Yeah, that's very true. I'd never had enough of records or writing songs. That was always a great hobby, and obviously still is.
How do you feel about coming back to it? Because you're in the middle of it at the moment. You're appearing in London tonight on the umpteenth date that you've been doing. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, very much. I think it was a lot to do with just getting older. And I've been in the business 4 years now instead of 1 when I first toured. And that does make a world of difference. Becoming happy and at home with it, really. I really felt like a fish out of water when I first started. And now I don't. Now I accept it and I enjoy it and I love every minute of it.
Let's get into the music you've chosen, and thank you for the time you spent putting them together. What are we going to start with?
This would be T-Rex, Telegram Sam.
T-Rex, Mark Bolan, of course, and Telegram Sam, the first of 12 records being chosen for us this afternoon by Gary Numan. Is that your all-time T-Rex favourite, or just one of a number of songs you like?
Of T-Rex, I think that's my all-time favourite, yeah. I used to like the Groover as well, that was another one.
We were just saying while it was playing, I mean, in a way, it hasn't really dated at all, has it?
No, I still think you could play that thing now, and it would stand up to anything that's going on. I'd still be considered actually quite new, I think.
Was music something fairly instant in your life? I mean, if we go back to your school days, were you a record buyer? Did you read the music papers and sort of want to be involved in it all?
In spurts, much the same as I am now. I would spend, say, a year or two absolutely fanatical about something, particularly T-Rex, and then I'd pull out completely and I wouldn't touch it for months and months and months.
That's interesting. You had the ability to do that. I mean, normally people get completely hung up with it and it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah,
more and more obsessive.
I can't stay interested in things for very long. It's actually quite a problem because I get interested in something, spend money on it, get books, actually buy the machine in question or whatever, and then go off it. I think the only thing I never went off of was aeroplanes. I'm dreading the day I go off of them because I can't fortune sitting out of the runway.
We shall talk about aeroplanes a little bit later on. T-Rex and Mark Bolan, good start. And now we come to a very talented lady who with the greatest regret, I have to say, really has struggled for the last couple of years to get hit records. And I wonder why, because there's no doubt about it. In the mind of Kate Bush, there always seems to be an awful lot going on. Is that the way you view her?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff she's done recently as well, over the last couple of years, has been brilliant.
Here she is.
Clever girl.
He's here. He's here.
The music of Kate Bush and the man with the child in his eyes. Gary was just telling me he's never ever met her. I've met her once. She's a very charming lady, but what has happened to her? It's weird, isn't it? Were you ever a big record buyer? We've talked about the fact that you were in and out and dabbled in and out of the record industry, but does that mean that at home you've got a lot of records?
I haven't actually, no. No, I've got about 11 albums, I think, 12 albums.
Goodness gracious.
And most of those are not given to me.
Just refresh our memories. Was there a specific time period where suddenly you thought, this is for me, I want to get up on the stage and perform?
Yeah, first of all I saw Hank Marvin, and this is going back to when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And I didn't really so much want to be up on a stage as I wanted to have an electric guitar. Because I was just fascinated with the dials, and it flashed in the light. It was all shiny and had a wire coming out of it. Yeah. So I had one of these little acoustic things, I tied a bit of string to it, and that was my lead. And out come the mirror, and there I was being Hank Marvin.
Now, here's honesty.
And then it all died away again. And when I was about 11, I had a cousin who could play guitar, and he started to show me a few chords. And it was then, really, that I started to think about what it would be like. And I also started getting into that what are we here for bit, and all that thing that you do when you're young. And I decided, really, that whatever I would do, it would be in something that was out of the ordinary. I really was going to be, I wanted to work for a motor racing team, part of a pit crew. I don't quite know how the music business thing came around, really.
Now to the early 1970s, a band who were very, very big for a period of time with a fine lead singer. Why Mott the Hoople? Were they another band who made you a figure?
Really, this band were around at the time I was about 14, 15, and just starting to get into parties and women and various things like that. And so it's more of a memory. Well, and Gary Glitter was the same thing, but actually this song was something special.
There's somebody connected with this, and I'm not going to ask any questions. Let's just play Mott the Hoople. Ian Hunter's song Honolulu Boogie. First time I think we've ever played that on my Top 12. Nice to hear some music from Mott the Hoople. A very, very good band, but there again, it all disappeared and they all went off in different directions.
Yeah, I actually met the bass player to that in a club a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing some silly job, fishmonger or something. But what a waste, you know.
That's a very interesting observation. Do you worry about that?
No, I've always taken into account that we're here for a while and then we're not. And that it all depends very much on people buying the records or not buying the records.
Do you think...
So I've got contingency plans for it.
Sure. But, I mean, did you have a few sleepless nights and think, I wonder whether they'll be there with their pennies in their hands buying my records?
Yeah, I had about 360 of them. As you plan the whole thing and decide, you sit back and you look at the charts, you watch the programs, you listen to it, to the radio, and you see where it's going, or you think you see where it's going, and you make your plan. It's almost like going to war, and you work out a strategy, and you get all your eggs in one big basket, the image, the album, the songs, the tour, the show, and now you go and try it, and if it fails, then you've had it. And you're seen to fail in front of everybody. It is quite a worry, but then again, that's obviously half the fun of it. That's why we're in it.
Do you feel that it would have been interesting if you'd actually started on the long, hard road playing small clubs? Because really, our memories of Gary Numan were arriving straight on the concert scene where you were playing the big venues all around the country.
Well, I didn't want to play live unless I could do the big show. People said it was pretentious, but it really was quite the opposite. It was the fact that I knew quite well that with the experience I had, which is virtually none, there was no way I could get up in front of 4,000 people and be entertaining for 2 hours. So I built a whole massive light system around me to give them something to look at. It was anti-ego, if anything. I wasn't very confident about doing it at all, which is why I never wanted to play clubs, because I wouldn't have that reassuring backup wall of light, you know. And so I did an American tour recently where I did clubs, and that was the first time I'd ever really had the confidence to go out and do anything like that, which is why I'm now sort of happy to be back in it.
Right. Well, let's stay in America and pick up on one of their great vocalists, and there is no doubt about it that Andy Williams has provided the world of song with a few classics down the years. You picked a track which more recently was a hit record for The Beat, I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah, this is nothing against their version at all.
No.
I enjoyed their version, but
sure.
This is the one for me, the Andy Williams one.
Well, we've given you the clues. I'm sure you know what we're going to play. Andy Williams, and Can't Get Used to Losing You. I was just saying there's a tremendous purity about his voice, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a great voice. I used to watch that program with the bear, you know, the cookie.
Oh, yes. Hey, Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, good, we got you at it.
I love
Mr.
that.
Williams, can I have a cookie?
I like the program, but I was never a great fan of his, other than just being like a Des O'Connor type thing. And then I saw this Albert Hall program, and I was so impressed with his voice. I had no idea that he could sing like that, you know. Put me in my place, that's for sure.
There's a nice diversity to the music that Gary's chosen this afternoon, because we move now from Andy Williams in America to, I suppose, the beautiful countryside around Worcestershire, which I always associate with that great writer Elgar. And you've chosen Pomp and Circumstance, one of the marches, number 1. And we're going to play this from the last night of the Proms, which wasn't so very long ago. Are you a classical music fan? Have you found that classical music has influenced what you've done in any small way?
If it has, it's very, very small, and I've hardly noticed it, to be really honest about it. The reason I particularly like this is just it makes me feel so proud to be British. I even stand up when the Queen comes on the telly. Seriously, I'm absolutely fanatical about it. I've got Union Jack on my plane. When the Falklands thing was going on when I lived in America, I was so annoyed because being so close to the South American borders there, I was very much outnumbered for the Mexis and all that, which supported the Argentines. So I bought my Union Jack and I stuck it on my Jeep and I would drive around with my Union Jack out. I had my Empire Strikes Back badge on. I really felt bad about it, you know. I'm very, very patriotic, and this song is everything.
Pomp and Circumstance March, number 1 by Elgar from the last night of the Proms, which is an auspicious occasion and a greatly patriotic occasion, and has brought a tear to my eye, I must admit, over the years. Marvellously British.
Yeah, I think that's my favourite of all time. That's certainly my favourite on this.
Good to know. I suppose, really, we've come to the time where I ought to mention aeroplanes. Now,
yeah,
whether we'll ever play any more records, now that we've got to this stage, I don't know. But why did it all start?
It actually started my going to get a licence. My dad was working at at the airport.
That's right.
And there was a ring of people. About 10 of them were going to club together and get a little two-seater. And my dad became involved in it. And I got this little old tatty second-hand plane, you see. And so what he did, he packed me off to flying school to start to learn how to fly the thing, so I could then show my dad how to do it. And then the ring fell through, but by that time I'd already got well involved in the learning how to fly. So although there was no aeroplane coming, I carried on with the lessons, thanks to my dad who gave me the money for it. And so I got that licence, and I went on and got a multi-engine licence, so I can fly the twin-engine jobs. Then I did a helicopter thing, then a jet helicopter thing, and now I've gone on to do night ratings, aerobatics, instrument flying.
What they call in the trade the full Monty. This is amazing. Quite amazing. You've got no ideas of flying Concorde on the quiet as your own shuttle service?
I was actually allowed into British Airways to fly their simulators, so I've got actually about 6 or 7 hours on a jumbo jet simulator.
Goodness me. You've had no sort of approaches from anybody?
Well, not because of the press I keep getting. No. I'm quite proud of what I can do in it, you know. And I mean, you pick up the paper and it's got accident number 7 and you wasn't even in an aeroplane that day. You begin to wonder why the hell they're writing something like that. You know, there's a point at which you must stop lying to get news, I would have thought.
Nevertheless, I mean, on the occasions when there have been problems, you've obviously been extremely worried by it, I should think.
Well, I've only had one actual accident, you know, so at that point I was too busy to be scared, because if I didn't do this particular thing and that particular thing, then we was dead as doornails. What's
the actual appeal of it, though, do you think?
The slight danger that's involved is appealing. The nervousness that you get about it and conquering that and being able to do it and simply being able to make those things do what you want them to do. I mean, mine is a 200 mile an hour, 3-ton piece of metal, and it's a rather powerful thing to go throwing around the sky.
How many days a week will we find you airborne?
Anytime I'm not doing anything else. Yeah.
You're straight up there, eh?
Yeah, I love it.
Let's move back to some music, and, well, a gentleman who's just celebrated 25 years in the business with great aplomb, Cliff Richard. Is he a long-time favourite of yours?
I used to like his films, Summer Holiday and those things. I really enjoyed those. I was never a great fan of the music, but I'd want to go out and buy it. I actually met him a couple of years ago. He came down to the studio at Shepperton and did some work there. And I was very nervous, you know, he's not such a famous person. I thought, meeked up, touched him on his shoulder and said hello. And he was really, really a nice person, very, very down to earth and that. I sat him in my car and I just got my car and I showed it off. And he's great, you know. And by the by, I happen to think this song's great as well.
A lovely built-in vibrato at the end of that when he wobbles the notes. He's a fine singer, isn't he?
Yeah, he's great.
And we were saying, just like Andy Williams, one of the most distinctive voices I think this country has ever produced. Let me just talk to you for a moment, Gary, about the bands who, over the last year, have really taken off like rockets. I mean, if I were to mention to you Spandau Ballet and Kajagoogoo, what's your reaction?
Great.
Like them?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, do you think the business is in a very healthy state at the moment? There's a lot of new bands coming through.
Well, I think it isn't. There's a lot of new bands up and coming, but I think we're a little bit starved for choice. Because although I like the new bands, like Nick Beggs in Kajagoogoo is a brilliant player, very, very good player. And the Spandau songs were especially well done, I thought. But we really haven't got much on the other side of the fence, which is really what I'm trying to do at the moment, the more theatrical things and the showman type of thing, really.
But nevertheless, the business has thrown up some wonderful singers and some great songs over the years, and here we have a perfect combination with Judy Collins singing a Sondheim song. This is a great theatre piece, isn't it? Or it has been made a great theatre piece by various performers.
Yeah, this song, I think, sums up a lot of the fears of anybody in the entertainment business. The fact of one day walking out on stage and nobody's there. It's a fear of mine, although obviously I've got other things to go into. But for somebody which lives for the business and wants it to be a complete lifetime thing, it must be a terrible fear.
Judy Collins and the Sondheim song, which has been covered by a great number of people. I've heard Frank Sinatra sing that impeccably well, and a lot of other people too. It's a great song, isn't it?
Yeah, I first heard that on the Parkinson show when I was about 8 or 9. There's a lady called Glynis Johns was doing it, and she cried when she did it. And I was very young, obviously, and it bothered me that somebody cried when they sang a song, so I took special note of it. And when this version came out, I bought it, actually, when a few records actually went out and bought.
Marvellous piece of music. You've already said a couple of times in the programme how close you and your dad have worked on everything and are still working on everything. Has that been easy? Because, I mean...
The thing about me and my dad is my dad is very, very clever when it comes to business. But the writing is my province. And so while I respect his opinion, the decision at the end of the day on that is mine. The decision at the end of the day on business is my dad's. And that's how we work it. The whole family's involved. My mum's involved very, very closely. My brother's in the band. He's wrote a song on the new album. I couldn't do it, I don't think, unless it was like that. I really couldn't.
Was there a lot of music in the home that you remember when you were young? I mean, was the radio on? Were there gramophone records playing?
My dad whistling. He whistles. I think my mum used to play me Locomotion by Little Eva when I was young. So I always had that. And Remember Me by Johnny somebody or other. Or Johnny Remember Me by somebody or other.
John Layton.
Was that it? Yeah.
Yep.
Red Label. Remember the red and white label?
That's right. Let's come pretty up to date with a fella who, well, I think probably has turned into one of the greatest movers the business has seen in a long time, and he sings pretty well too.
Yeah.
Well, I like Michael Jackson, and I think this is one of the best things he's ever recorded and written. Have you ever met him?
No, never.
Would you like to?
I don't actually socialise much in the music biz. I know like Roger Taylor from Queen, for example, quite well, and he's a tremendous person. He's my favourite person in the business. Really, really a nice man, you know. Robert Palmer's another one. I met Adam Ant. He was great. Well, clumsy. He knocked things over a little bit, but he was a smashing person. Yeah.
I think we'll play the music. Michael Jackson and that remarkably fine song, Billie Jean, from, I suppose, one of the most successful albums of the last 10 years, if not one of the most successful albums in the history of the music business. He's still having hits off that album in the States, isn't he? Is that a policy thing with you, Gary? Do you worry about the amount of singles taken off an album? Have you done during your career?
Yeah, you worry about it a bit. Well, not worry is the wrong word, really. But you're aware of the fact that you can only go so far. Of course, you can have a really massive album like that one. I think Blondie had a similar thing with one of their albums. They took about 5 or 6 singles off it, and they continue to sell. You know, because you can actually come to a point where nothing you do is wrong, and that's a nice position to be in, really.
It certainly is. Michael Jackson.
It's very, very rare, though. Very rare.
We must be due something new from a band, the drummer of whom you were mentioning a few moments ago, because we're about to play one of their songs, and that, of course, is Queen. We're going to play your Brian May composition. Yeah. They've come up with some great songs. They really do write marvellous material.
Yeah. I think Freddie Mercury is the best frontman in the business. I was in Japan once, and they was there in Tokyo, and they was playing the Budokan, I think, for 5 nights. And I was there every night, and I was down jigging around. Had great fun.
High praise. Here's Queen. Brian May's song from the Queen repertoire, Now I'm Here. Gary Numan is our guest on this Sunday afternoon here on Radio 1. You lived, and I'm going to mention it now because it's interesting to note that we're going to play a David Bowie track from Aladdin Sane, and on the sleeve notes it reads, cracked actor, in brackets, Los Angeles. Now, you've been spending some time in Los Angeles, haven't you?
Yeah, I spent about 6 months over there.
And you were just saying to me how enjoyable it was because you felt that you could be you and get away from it, and the harassment, which is inevitable when you become a public figure, didn't exist to the same extent over there.
No, I went to a fairground. I went to Disneyland, I went to a place called Magic Mountain, Knott's Berry Farm, all the big fairground. And then America's fairground is, you'll see it to believe it compared to what we got. It was so nice to just be one of the many again. You have to be just a little bit more careful than most about where you go, what you do, where you say,
well, it's
where you leave the car, for example.
It's an invasion of privacy, isn't it, really, for want of a better phrase?
Well, it's not
in the nicest
hazard,
possible way.
But obviously I wouldn't change it for the world.
Sure.
But it was just nice just to be able to drive around and had the roof off and not worry about it.
Well, here he is, as promised, David Bowie from Aladdin Sane and cracked actor. There's a specific reason for choosing this track. He's our most chosen artist on the series.
To me, at the moment, it's very difficult for me to say anything about David Bowie because of the comparisons. It always seemed like sour grapes. I personally think he's the best thing that we've ever put out as a country. Tremendous respect for what he's done, but to me the mystery's gone. And to me, the mystery was always the greatest thing of all. You know, you never know how to take him. To me, this kind of thing now, the cracked actor and that era, was to me the greatest rock and roll image there ever was.
Taken, of course, from the album Aladdin Sane, David Bowie and Cracked Actor, our most chosen artists, as I frequently remind you on Sunday afternoons. It is extraordinary the number of people who can't resist sticking in a David Bowie track, and why not? But we've never played that one before, Gary, so well done you. That's the first time that we've played Cracked Actor. I read in the press a month or so ago that you had had a hair transplant, and the thing that first sprung into my mind was, goodness gracious, I never realised the poor man needed one. I could do with one. I've never been brave enough. Was it something that was worrying you? Were you concerned about it?
Yeah, it would have been worrying me since I was about 18. I think when it happens to you, you're far more aware of it than anybody else is. And I can remember looking in the mirror and brushing it this way and that way, and nobody could figure out what I was doing because nobody could know there was anything wrong. But to me, it stood out a mile. And I actually went to see about having it done when I was about 18 or 19, and they threw me out of the place. I said, "Don't be stupid, son," and away I went. Told me to come back in a year. I went back in about 3 or 4 years, you know. And by then it was getting bad enough. A lot of people will say it's it was because of my professional commitments. You know, I'm a salesman. I need to be this or I need to be that. I honestly don't believe that. It's vanity from top to bottom. It wasn't me. I just didn't want to be bald. I can honestly say that it didn't hurt at all. It is a little bit gory. I won't explain what it's like because it is a bit gory.
I read it in the press, this description of blood oozing down over your ears while you held a couple of swabs there. I thought, oh, what? What's all this about?
It does sound gory, yeah, but it doesn't hurt.
Well, as you're happy with it, that's great. And you said in the article you can do anything you like with it.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly expensive. I've been bleaching it. I can do what I like with it.
Pull it, tug it.
Yeah, and it'll be there forever. You know, it's going to be there when I'm 80. Good. If I could live that long.
Great for you. We're going to play back-to-back with the natter we've just had in the middle. I think two of the most creative artists that this country has produced. You've already cited David Bowie as being, well, a fantastic influence on so many people and a tremendously clever fella. And I think Peter Gabriel falls into the same bracket. Very, very inventive man.
Yeah, the band went to see him on his recent tour, but they come back raving about it, you know. I got fed up hearing about it in the end, right in the middle of my rehearsals, you know, telling me how great somebody else was.
Well, thank you for picking this track, Peter Gabriel. I don't remember. The genius that is Peter Gabriel, and I don't remember. Our guest on this afternoon's edition of My Top 12 has been, because we're at the end of the programme, Gary Numan. Gary, thank you very much indeed for your time. Was it hard work putting these records together?
It was hard work, actually. Yeah, I spent a good hour or so trying to remember. The hardest point is remembering old songs, which you hear it on the radio, you suddenly think, that's absolutely brilliant. And you've forgotten all about it for the last 10 years, and it suddenly comes to mind again. So that was all. But I didn't want to rush down the first thing that came to mind. And it's like the Andy Williams one, for example, comes to me quite late in the day.
Right. Do you find that music is something which you have to have around you a lot?
No, I find it intrusive. It gets in the way of thought. I study a lot. I got a real craving for knowledge, mainly about aeroplanes, of course, but about other things as well. And I find it gets in the way, actually, because I listen to it and I think, that's a good idea. I'll use that. When music is on, you can't stop being a rock star listening to it for ideas or whatever. You can't stop that.
Do you still find it hard work sitting down, having to write?
I never used to. I used to love it. I enjoyed writing this one. But getting that first thing out, what are you going to write about this year? That was the problem. You know, what can you write about? What's on your mind? You see, when you become famous, you're in a rather pampered position. Nothing's very bad. Everything's happy, and there's money, and there's this and there's that. And there's nothing that bothers you anymore. I suppose that's why a lot of people get politically aware, or this big social conscience thing, because that's all they've got. Well, I'm not into that. And it does become a problem on what to write, and so you get self-indulgent. You start writing about yourself all the time. And I'm guilty of that as much as anybody.
Well, thank you for working with us this afternoon on what has been a very enjoyable programme. We're going to finish with a band who, well, I suppose have had their fair share of success since about 1979, haven't they?
Yeah,
not bad.
Fair to middling. Yeah.
Are you still a fan of the Police?
I love the singles. I must be honest, and I don't actually buy the albums. I'm not a great fan of their albums, but they always seem to put out the perfect single. Always. Great band.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your company, Gary. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
The Police, and Don't Stand So Close to Me, the last choice of our guest this week, Gary Numan. The programme was produced by John Sparrow. And next week from America, we'll be joined by Billy Joel for next week's edition of My Top 12, which will be at a brand new time of 1 o'clock on
Recently, the Soundwave crew travelled down to Shepperton Studios to meet Gary Numan. Now, Gary's had a controversial last 2 years, and we were all eager to set the record straight as Peter Haynes interviewed him.
What do you think was the best point of 83 for you?
For me, I came back to England was really good because I've been gone for over a year, just over a year. That was really nice. The tour itself, it was the first major tour that I've ever done that I really enjoyed it. I hadn't enjoyed it much before that. I never used to enjoy playing live at all. Like in the early days, I hated it.
What do you mean, like in small pubs and things?
Yeah, I really hated that.
Why? Because of the closeness to the people?
That was one thing. I just never felt that natural being on stage, really. I'm not an outward-going sort of person.
Well, on a large stage, I mean, obviously, you aren't very close to the audience. And when you're up there, you're just projecting this image, and you like that because you haven't got to answer for it afterwards, like in the bar when you play in a pub. People walk up to you and say, well, why are you wearing that?
Yeah, there's a lot more safety involved in being on a big stage.
Yeah, that's right.
Being a bigger star, because you're away from that, the purely physical side of it, whereas when we was a punk rocker, if somebody didn't like it, they threw bottles at you. I didn't like it for that reason. But then when it went on and I became bigger, I still didn't enjoy it. I made it very early on, so I didn't have years and years of experience to draw on. No. So I had to do all my learning and all my growing up in the business, discovering everything, with everybody watching. Yeah. So I'd already been number one. I became number one the second time I ever went on telly.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I'd never learnt about TV cameras. I'd never learnt how to handle them. Shows, interviews. I'd never done an interview when I got famous. No, that's not. I'd done one for a fanzine.
What, with Tubeway Army?
Yeah. And all of a sudden I was talking to the Sun and Melody Mac and all these people, and I didn't have a clue how to do it, or what they would do to you, or how they can rearrange words and things to make you look like an idiot if they choose to.
What about the States, playing live in the States? How did that
That's fun. The Americans seem to have a different attitude to us, to the British, in which they go to a concert or a club or whatever, and they seem to be absolutely determined to enjoy themselves no matter what. For over here, it seems to be very much a case of you must impress them first. And so they wait to be impressed, and then that's not always the case, but generally that's more the case than it is in America.
So you found it easier and you preferred it in the States, playing out there?
I didn't prefer it because over here I was always relatively well known, so I always had quite an easy time. Well, over there I'm not, so I have to go out and work for it. It's far easier over there to perform when you're not famous than it is over here. If you're famous, then it's just as easy wherever you go, because everybody's, sort of paying good money to see you, and they'll enjoy it no matter what. But for an up and coming band or act, it's much easier in America. It's not easier to make it, but it's more fun because there's less nastiness involved.
Yeah.
The crowd seem to be more with you, more encouraging than they are here. Here, sometimes it's more like a battlefield than a gig, and I thought that was always very pointless. And I didn't really want to have anything to do with it, so I packed it in once and didn't do it for about a year and a half, nearly 2 years. And then when the record was successful, then I started doing it again after that.
Oh, good, because you announced your retirement, you came back, when was it, about 18 months later?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, I stopped playing, I stopped touring at the end of 80 and said I won't be doing any more tours, but I'll do Wembley in April just to say goodbye. She had this big extravaganza thing at Wembley. But that wasn't a tour, that was always going to be done. And then I toured again in 83, so that was 3 years between touring.
So why did you come back after 3 years?
I grew up, basically, and I couldn't remember what it was about it that I didn't like. And then when I started touring again in 83, I remembered what it was that I didn't like about it. But then within the first 2 or 3 days, I'd got used to it, and I was actually starting to enjoy it. And it's all a matter of growing up. And I used to worry because I used to design all the stage shows, well, still do, design all the stage shows, the costumes, everything to do with it, even the backstage passes. I did everything from top to bottom. It was, my show as far as I was concerned, and I wanted to be involved in all of it. And that puts quite a pressure on you. Even though I wanted to do that, it still puts a pressure on you. If something goes wrong, you look an awful full.
Well, especially when you're worrying about the music as well.
Yeah, you got that side of it. You got the lights being so massive. There's got to be something that goes wrong sooner or later. I used to worry and worry the whole show. I'll be looking around and waiting. When this light didn't come on, I'll be thinking, God, I wonder if that circuit's gone, then this one's going to go next, and that's overloading the dimmer and all things like that. And as I'm trying to sing the songs and remember the words, which I'm terrible at. Anyway. And this time I didn't worry about it. I thought, well, if it goes, it goes. And
so it's a lot more relaxed now, is it?
Yeah. I don't walk out on stage or like terrified that something's going to go wrong anymore. I think that comes from being in it so long. And now if it does go wrong, I'm quite confident I can do something to handle it, to get out.
What about this change of image now, this fashion thing with like, the leather thing and everything?
Yeah, this is the fourth one. Leather was the fourth one. I had the first one, which was just a suit and a silly tie. Then the Buck Rogers one with the red stripe things. Then the gangster one, and then the Mad Max one.
Well, after this Mad Max, what's going to come up then?
I don't know what they're doing next. I might do an Australian one with the corks. I don't know really.
A can of beer.
I thought about it. I can't decide what to do.
What's the size of the audiences in America?
When I was doing well, it was quite good. We was doing about 8,000-10,000 people a night in Canada. In America, it was about 2,000 to 3,000 a night. It was just like theatres. We hadn't reached the big places yet, the stadiums and that. Well, except for the West Coast, we did a stadium on the West Coast.
Or was it a heavy tour, like every night for a month or something, or 2 months?
It was about 30 odd shows. It wasn't that heavy really, especially for America. It wasn't particularly heavy. But I did 2 in 1 year over there, and then I stopped playing live, and the whole thing sort of died really. My own fault, just silly.
Well, because you decided not to play in that. I
couldn't do it anymore. To be honest, it was.
You weren't enjoying it, so you thought you were just cheating.
I wasn't enjoying it, for one thing. If you write a song in January, you record it in June, you tour it in September.
You've lost the feel completely.
Yeah, but by the time that song actually gets to the stage, it's a year out of date as far as the writer's concerned. So you're forever singing songs which you feel are old and out of fashion.
Yeah.
So you're not enjoying that side of it. When you're doing so much live work like I was at that time, I had 2 world tours in 18 months at that time. When you're doing that amount of touring, you're not writing anymore anyway. And what you are writing is very sparse, and you've not really got the time to work on it. So it's like the first thing that comes to your head is what goes down, and that isn't the way to do it at all. You should work on things and get them right and improve upon them over time.
Like a lot of people on the road, when they have to write, when they are touring all the time, you find they've just got like a set format. It does sound
that's right. Yeah. You have to, because you have to get very strict about it, because you've only got so long to do it.
That's right, you haven't really got the
time. You've only got so many weeks off between tours and rehearsals to actually write something down. There's lots of reasons for not doing it, really. Not just like a selfish, I don't want to do this anymore. No star trippiness involved, but it really wasn't doing me the world of good, actually.
At the end of '78, there was a massive gap, wasn't there, in the music industry then, because there was like the new wave thing, and a lot of musicians were just jumping on the bandwagon, saying, "Oh, yeah, we're a new wave band."
Yeah.
And it was really
punk version of Later.
Yeah, that's right.
Things like that.
They weren't very sincere, and well, there was a big gap left by Bowie. Was that a conscious thing for you to fill that?
Oh, well, I didn't go out really, so I didn't know whether that was going on. But there hadn't been any real character, with the exception of Johnny Rotten, who wasn't particularly wonderful, since Bowie and Bolan, people like that. And then Bolan died. Bowie had gone by the way, and comments about giving up images and just wanting to be himself and stuff like that. And so people had lost interest in him. And he was about the only person who really had that was theatrical and actually put on a show and was a larger-than-life character, which I always thought people wanted.
Yeah.
Which is what I always wanted as a fan.
Yeah.
And then along came punk rock and really sort of finished it off by all this anti-hero thing, anti-show, anti-star, which was everything against what I wanted to be. I didn't want to destroy the establishment, I wanted to join it. I liked things the way they were. I just wanted to be successful within it. I didn't want to destroy it.
The music press now. Why do you think they give you a rough ride? From the beginning, they gave you a rough ride. And even Radio 1, I remember when you were Our Friends Electric, number 1. They hardly ever played it.
No, it was number one for 2 weeks before they even put it on the playlist.
Well, why? Have you ever found out?
No, I don't know.
Why they've got a dislike?
Well, Radio 1 I've conquered now. They've been very kind to me in recent years. But that was a very long battle that was to get them to play anything.
Yeah, 'cause I can never understand
The press, I don't understand that, really. I can't understand why people would dislike me so much. I've not hit anybody.
Yeah, 'cause it's just a vicious attack on you, then you really haven't done anything wrong.
Did you read that one the other day? Oh, you probably didn't, actually. It said, I think it was a review for City Surprise or the Warriors single, and the whole thing said something like, Gary Numan is a worm, it's about time somebody stamped on the witless bastard. And that was it. I wonder what they thought of the song. Everybody says that because you're in the public eye, you should expect it and you should put up with it. Well, I don't believe that.
No.
And I think if somebody calls you a witless bastard, then sooner or later, you should have a chance to have to go back at them for it. Talk about record companies not letting people like yourselves and journalists get to us, because they always come out with stuff like you were saying about how busy we are, and how we're far too tied up with things at the moment and stuff like that. And half the time we're not. We sit at home watching the telly, doing nothing for weeks and weeks and weeks, months even. But the thing is, we don't know what they're saying.
Kind of image
Now,
they're projecting.
there may be politics involved, where they don't want me to do an interview with such and such a paper because they want Howard Jones to get the cover that particular week. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going on. I shouldn't use him because I like him, but that's as an example of how they may manipulate things from their end.
So you find that annoying, somebody in an office dictating what you do?
Well, what they do is they'll use me. They'll use me. Say, "Oh no, he's far too busy." Or we asked him, but he says he won't be able to do it until April, which makes me look like a big star tripper, big ego job. And often in the Lara magazines they'd write that he said he was too busy to talk to us, or I haven't even heard about the request at all. And most people in my position are quite happy to talk to anybody, any time really. If not, even when I'm working here, people come down and I chat to him in the studio for an hour. I say, while the drummer's getting his drum sound, you've got hours, haven't you?
That's right.
Well, he does hours
Do you
and
get any
hours.
fans milling around?
Yeah, you get a few down here. I get a lot of the house.
Do they get a warm reception at the house when they're standing around?
Yeah, I'm soft. It annoys us sometimes because I'd won't get once at 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. You can do without that, really.
Yeah,
And they stole all my goldfish. I've got a pond in my front garden. They stole all my fish. I was so annoyed. Not that I'm mad about fish, but it's the principle of the thing.
You stick very close to your family.
Yeah, very.
Like your dad is, he's directly involved in running your affairs, isn't he?
Yeah, my mum is as well. My dad's the manager of me and all the associated things that go with it, like the studio and stuff like that. He looks after all that.
Was he from the beginning?
No. My dad started to manage me September '79. That was after the 2 number 1 singles and 2 number 1 albums, and it was about halfway through the first British tour. Up until then, I was managing myself.
Oh, I see. So there was no one from the record company, really.
Well, it was a funny situation. Beggar sort of looked after me because nobody else was. But any decisions of any kind, I would take myself.
And of course, being your father, there's more trust there, isn't
Yeah, and the thing is, I always went to my dad anyway, and I would say to him, "Now, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that?" On a business deal, not song-wise or creative-wise, anything like that, but on a business level. And because as a youngster, your daddy's always right, isn't he? And I never quite got out of that, really. Still haven't. Nearly always what my dad thinks, I agree.
This works quite well for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, very well. Anyway, we tried to get a manager, and the one that we had in mind didn't come through, and so I didn't have anybody again. And I said to my dad, "Well, do you want to do it for the time being, either until somebody comes along or until it gets too much for us, and we have to sort of
And you've been
get him
together ever
professionally
since?
to do it." Yeah, and it worked out really well, and he learned it ever so quickly. And I wouldn't change it for the world, really.
Now, what was he involved in before?
He used to drive coaches for British Airways. It's to his credit, I think, how he's got to grips with it.
How he's handled it and all the
Yeah.
sharks involved with it.
Oh, he's brilliant.
What have you got planned for '84?
Well, I bought an aeroplane. I'm buying an aeroplane called a Harvard, which is a World War II job. So I'm going to start flying at air shows, doing displays, hopefully. I'm working as co-pilot on a Dakota, which is a big twin-engine thing. All through the year, I'm doing some ferry work for a company that I know flying Dakotas back from Europe, which is a good... I don't get paid or anything, I just do it for fun. It's great fun, actually.
Well, you're more involved with planes than music.
No, not really. I just talk about the planes more, don't I? No, I'm doing another tour this year, probably a world tour this year, 84. Another album, new record company, hopefully, if that comes through. Working with Tick and Top, writing some songs for them and working on their album with them. Working with Leo Sayer.
What about the musicians in the band? The same musicians as on the last album?
Yeah. I don't know if we'll be using Joe anymore. Joe's pretty busy now. New sax player, working with a new sax player.
And producer.
But the basic thing, like Russell, Chris, my brother John, and Cedric, they'll be the same. They're like my little nucleus, and the sax people and extras we get in.
Yeah, because you've worked together now for years.
Except for the Assassin album since 79, 78 actually, yeah. Late 78. It's like a little family that. Like, I'm lost without them, really. I did that one tour without them. It was horrible. There wasn't that same atmosphere. As soon as I was back, it was great. It was like a little party. Touring with them, it's like, as soon as you get on the coach to head off to Glasgow, wherever it's starting, the party starts. And like 2 months later, it sort of like winds down, everyone's dead on their feet.
So you all
it has to stop for a
band?
minute. Yeah,
with the band?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
There's none of this...
None of that separate limo stuff.
No.
I hate all that. If I do interviews, I like to take them with us. Because I just have so much... I don't like being around them. I like their company, I like them as people. They're like my best friends.
Well, I came down here to meet a star. Not Ginger Rogers, but a guy who's flying in and piloting himself. Now you might have guessed who it is, and you'll soon know if you were right, because here he comes. Gary, welcome back to Earth. That was a good landing.
All right, a bit heavy.
Yeah. You flew all that yourself. Incredible. How'd you get into this? The flying?
I've always lived near the airport. It probably comes from that, I suppose.
Yeah?
I've just always been around it.
Fascination in planes?
Yeah, well, any machine, but mainly aeroplanes.
And this one's quite famous, isn't it? This is the Vera Lynn.
Yeah, that was in that Ruskin Air Services airline program.
Right. And it's got a history. There was a VC, I think, one on this one in
Yeah, not this actual airplane, but this is in the colours and is made to represent the airplane that Lord was in. He won the VC. And all sorts of things happened. It caught fire and...
So it's got a really interesting history. Yeah.
It's a great plane, actually.
So, well, here they've got an incredible collection of famous planes. I mean, every single plane has got a history. I mean, is this your favourite out of all the planes here at Duxford?
Yeah, it is, actually. There's I like Spitfires as well.
Yeah. And you put a lot of hours in on this one?
Not too many yet, no. I'm doing the air show circuit next year, which will be great fun.
Yeah?
I'm looking forward to it very much and hoping to get this on my licence.
Is there quite a contrast from rock music by doing things like this?
Well, it has a similar excitement about it, but you don't get critics for one thing, which is
well, that's good. Yeah.
That's an advantage.
Do you find?
Yeah.
I mean, is it really an escape to find a sort of a release in flying? You know, I mean,
I suppose so. I didn't do it for that reason. I didn't get into it for that reason, but I'm sure it has that effect, and it gives you something that takes your mind completely away from the music business, because this is such a serious subject and such a passion for me. That I can completely get out of the music business when I'm doing this.
Well, we almost heard that you'd given up at one time.
I did.
And I thought you just packed it in. The next thing I knew, you were flying around the world.
Yeah, I got out of it for a year and a half, something like 2 years, out of the music business, and got into this. And then slowly, as I got older, I suppose, I drifted back into it again.
Yeah.
And I achieved what I wanted to do with the flying. I'd got the licenses I was going for at that time, and I flew around the world. And
the round-the-world trip must have been amazing. Did you...
It's very frightening, yeah. I wouldn't want to do it again, not really.
Did you get to sort of strange places and touch down and wonder how you were going to carry on, you know?
India was the strangest place. The first time I got there, I got arrested because they thought I was a spy. And the second time I was there, the fuel thing, they had this 1930s fuel bowser, and the nozzle blew off the end. And there's this old man about 60 pouring the fuel in, and this hose is snaking around like all over the aircraft, all over me, all in my face. And, funny old place, India, really.
Because we've both been around the world, I mean, many times, you flying jet airliners, and it's really comfortable. But this is really different, isn't it? I mean, this is seat of the pants stuff sometimes,
it was terrifying, to be honest, It's not a thing I'd recommend to anybody to do, really. Very, very frightening.
Yeah.
Kind of flying. Those aeroplanes aren't designed for that. They're not designed for like 2,500 miles to Hawaii, across the Pacific. They're not really made for that kind of thing.
How's the Dakota? Does this feel very safe to fly in?
Yeah, very. It's so sturdy, so solid. That's why they're still around.
Yeah.
Most successful aeroplane ever, as far as I know.
So, should we ever go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
great. We might as well fly back to TV Centre, leave the Imperial War Museum, and go back and see what's doing in the studio.
Here we go. Mind yourself getting up the stairs.
Okay, great. Shall I go first?
Yeah, please.
Right.
They say that neon lights are bright on Broadway. They say there's always magic in the air. When you're walking down the street and you ain't had enough to eat, the glitter rubs off and you're nowhere. They say the girls are something else on Broadway. But looking at them just gives me the blues. 'Cause how you gonna make some time when all you've got is one damn dime? And one damn dime won't even shine your shoes. We are not welcome. fingers in the dark. Well, you know it's what she needed. These boys are passing through. If you smile, my dear, you know they said so. This is new love.